So continuing our presentation on urban runoff, we'll pick up where we left off on NPDES permits. So these permits are issued by the states and tribes with primacy, or by EPA regions in states or areas that are not granted primacy. And once issued, these permits set the following for permittees. Limits on effluents and pollutants that can be what can be discharged into the waterways. They also set water quality monitoring and reporting requirements and schedules, and any additional requirements to protect water quality and community health as is seen fit for the certain activities and watersheds. And they may also include generic best management practices, or BMPs, to help manage those pollutants. And permit applications always require public notification and comment periods so that those local communities have a chance to share their thoughts and their voice. And those comments must be addressed before the permit can be released. And limit exceedances can result in enforcement actions, which can include administrative orders to correct that exceedance, monetary penalties, and even civil and criminal actions, including jail time if the limit was exceeded knowingly. So the construction activities covered by NPDES, essentially that permit ensures that the proper stormwater BMPs, construction BMPs, are being used to reduce and mitigate any runoff from the site. And permits are required for areas, construction sites greater than or equal to an acre in size, or if they're less than an acre in size but are part of a larger development plan, such as a housing community or something like that. The permits are administered again by the EPA or by the state, depending on the location of the construction site. And there's EPA resources available to help determine if a construction NPDES form or permit is needed. So for industrial activities, the permit covers stormwater discharge from many industrial activities, including manufacturing facilities, mining and oil and gas exploration and processing areas or facilities, landfills and dumps, including metal scrap yards and salvage yards, hazardous waste treatment, storage, and disposal facilities, and things of that nature. There's quite a few included on this list, so pretty much everything you could think of. And so for MS4s covered by NPDES, the permit is required for the operators of the MS4, and the operators must develop stormwater management programs for their drainage areas that describe the stormwater control practices used to meet the permit requirements. And those practices, of course, must minimize the pollutant discharge from the MS4. And so these MS4s fall into two phases for the NPDES permits. Phase 1 is for the larger cities and medium-sized cities and counties with equal to or greater than 100,000 people in 100,000 in population. And Phase 2 applies to the smaller MS4s in urbanized areas that might be designated by the permitting authority. And so these include departments of transportation, prisons, hospitals, and public universities. And so to conclude, we'll discuss some challenges, opportunities, and some controversies related to urban runoff. So in terms of challenges, the increased urbanization potentially enlarges drainage areas, which increases, and the increased use of chemical substances and pollution and pollutants in the area really cause problems in terms of introducing those into waterways, because those build up on those impervious surfaces. And furthermore, the removal of the vegetative cover and the weakening of soil structure because of that vegetation removal, as well as lack of infiltration in the first place because of impervious surface just kind of further exacerbates that. And this can also include an increase in the number of non-point sources. As areas grow, sometimes it becomes harder to manage some of the practices being done within the watershed, because there's constantly so much going on for public works departments for the county and cities that it really becomes a lot to manage. Also, jurisdictional boundaries can pose issues as well, in the case of really determining whose responsibility it is to take care and address certain pollution or flooding issues as a result of urban runoff. I myself encounter this on a daily basis when there's urban runoff issues, because that might be coming from an area that's primarily handled by a city or a municipality going into a county-owned culvert, resulting in flooding and polluted water building up on someone's lawn or driveway or something like that. So it becomes really difficult to keep track of those things and make sure that these issues are being addressed. But there's also opportunities derived from urban runoff or the issue of urban runoff. The development of regulations and management strategies to effectively handle that and make it really as seamless as possible. That's the goal, I suppose. And as well as community involvement, and that includes the development of educational programs and really just showing the public how these things can be managed and getting support from the community in that way. And that includes development of landowner resources to hopefully mitigate or avoid some pollution issues from practices in the watershed. And a good example of a up and coming and really a potential controversy, I wouldn't call it a controversy as of yet, is the recent study that found that the compound 6-PPD quinone, which is a leachate from tires, is lethal to coho salmon. And I'm sure that there will be kind of a long road to having that addressed, between having that confirmed by other studies and really supporting the findings from this study by Tian et al. But this would have pretty major implications on tire manufacturers, and I would imagine would lead to some lawsuits or issues between these manufacturers and probably the automotive industry in general, and environmental groups and importantly tribes as well. So as you can see, urban runoff is an important issue that needs to be really considered as we plan and further develop in our watersheds. Here are resources, and thank you for watching our presentation.